You look like we're going to get this thing. We're going. All right. Hear ye, hear ye. Oh, wait for that. We are pleased that Daniel Webster has returned to his home. And Jim O'Gara did say, Daniel, you look wonderful for your age.
In 1840, all appearances indicated that Henry Clay would be the candidate of the Whig Party for president. So I urged my friends in Massachusetts to withdraw my name and took the opportunity to travel to England with Mrs. Webster and my daughter. She, in fact, was married in England. And while we were there, we met the young and the beautiful Queen Victoria. She was married in that year to Prince Albert, and you know, he was of Germanic extraction, and he brought to England all the many Christmas traditions of his country, which were, of course, adopted by the Queen, and in (1842 or 1843), I had the opportunity to meet again Charles Dickens. I had met him in England, but you know, in 1843, I believe it was, he wrote a wonderful Christmas story. And it was so wonderful, we all shared it with each other, and I thought I would read a small part of that story by Mr. Dickens to you this evening. And like all good stories, I shall not begin at the beginning, but I will begin at a point where he says, "Once upon a time," which is a wonderful way to begin a story on any occasion. And it's where I shall begin Mr. Dickens' story, which is about an extraordinary old gentleman, a very greedy, crabby gentleman. He reminded me of some of the people I met in Washington. Randolph, perhaps especially. Well, once upon a time, of all the good days of the year, upon a Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting house. That is the main character of the story, old Scrooge. I urge you, when you go home, obtain a copy of it and read it, because I am convinced it will become immensely popular, and it will be read for years and years to come. Well, it was a cold, bleak, biting, foggy weather, and the city clocks had only just gone 3, but it was quite dark already. The door of Scrooge's counting house was open that he might keep his eye on his clerk. We would call him a clerk in this country, but you know, in England they call them clerks. Who, in a dismal little cell beyond a sort of tank, was copying letters, and I know what that is like because I did it for a lawyer in Maine, and using a quill pen, it gives you the most terrible pains in your finger. You know, our modern steel pens have so much relieved that necessity of using the quill. Well, the clerk was copying letters. Scrooge had a very small fire, but the clerk's fire was so very much smaller that it looked like one coal. But he couldn't replenish it, for Scrooge kept the coal box in his own room, and so surely as the clerk came in with a shovel, the master predicted that it would be necessary for them to part. Wherefore, the clerk put on his white comforter and tried to warm himself at a candle, in which effort, not being a man of very strong imagination, he failed. "A Merry Christmas, Uncle! God save you!" cried a cheerful voice. It was the voice of Scrooge's nephew, who came upon him so quickly that this was the first intimation Scrooge had of his approach. "Bah! Humbug!" said Scrooge. "Christmas a humbug, Uncle? You don't mean that, I'm sure." "I do. Out upon Christmas, What's a Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money, a time for finding yourself a year older and not an hour richer, a time for balancing your books and having every item in them through a round dozen of months presented dead against you. If I had my way, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled in his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart. Uncle, nephew, keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine. Keep it, but you don't keep it. Let me leave it alone, then. Much good may it do you. Much good has it ever done you. There are many things from which I might have derived good by which I have not profited. I dare say Christmas among the rest. But I am sure I have always thought of Christmas time when it has come round, apart from the veneration due to its sacred origin, if anything belonging to it can be apart from that, as a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time, the only time I know of in the long calendar of the year when men and women seem by one consent to open their shut-up hearts freely and to think of people below them as if they were really fellow travelers to the grave and not another race of creatures bound on other journeys. And therefore, Uncle, though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pockets, I believe that it has done me good and it will do me good, and I say, God bless it. Well, I say God bless Christmas too, and God bless you all for coming here to this Webster estate, and I am delighted to be back here to greet you this evening. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. So, and final things, please do make sure you get a chance, if you haven't already, to go upstairs and see the wonderful work. I do want to mention, by the way, I know that we have some very shy folks, but we want to thank Herb and Pauline Emelson for their generosity, which has helped us do a tremendous amount here tonight and throughout. So thank you both very much. Appreciate it. Finally, I want to thank Jim O'Gara for coming tonight and wearing men's clothing for a change. Everybody, we have raffle tickets. If you haven't had a chance to walk through, there are a number of raffle items that would encourage you to please buy tickets for.